Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm truly glad you've taken this time for yourself because today we're going to explore something that has confused, hurt, and haunted so many people who have been involved with a narcissist. Today, we're talking about why the narcissist desperately wants you to like them again. And I know, on the surface, that sounds almost unbelievable. After the devaluation, after the emotional cruelty, after the betrayal or discard, how could they possibly still care about your approval? How could someone who treated you so poorly still want your positive regard? But as unsettling as it may feel, this desire sits at the very core of narcissistic psychology, and understanding it can bring you clarity, power, and peace. To really understand this dynamic, we have to go back to the very beginning, long before the confusion, long before the pain. We have to revisit the phase that now feels distant and unreal, the phase where everything seemed perfect. It's important to remember this, not to romanticize it, but to understand the mechanics behind it. Narcissists do not casually enter relationships. They do not simply drift into your life by chance. They invest an extraordinary amount of effort to become part of your world. And that effort alone tells you something crucial. You were not chosen randomly. They targeted you. And that word matters. You were chosen because of who you are, because you are genuine, because you are empathic, because your inner world matches your outer behavior. What you feel is what you show. Your kindness is real. Your concern is sincere. Your emotional reactions are authentic. To most people, this is simply human. To a narcissist, it is mesmerizing. You see, narcissists are deeply drawn to people who are congruent, people whose insides match their outsides. Their own existence is the opposite of that. Inside, there is often emptiness, shame, insecurity, and a constant sense of instability. Outside, there is a performance, a mask. A carefully constructed personality designed to be appealing, impressive, and likable. When they encounter someone like you, someone with warmth, stability, compassion, and emotional depth, it feels like finding something they don't have but desperately need. You become a source of fuel so pure that they are drawn to it instinctively. Your presence makes them feel more real, more valuable, more whole. And this is why the early stage feels so intense. The attention, the admiration, the way they seem to truly see you, understand you, and appreciate you. This phase is often called love bombing, but it's important to understand that it's more than excessive affection. It is a strategic process of mirroring. They study you. They listen carefully to your stories, your dreams, your fears, your past wounds. They take mental notes, and then, slowly and skillfully, they become the person you've always wanted. They reflect your values. They adopt your language. They mirror your emotional style. They present themselves as the perfect partner, friend, or ally. And it feels extraordinary because it feels familiar. It feels like finally being understood. But here's the truth that's hard to accept. This level of effort is necessary for them. Their true self would never sustain a genuine connection with someone like you. If they showed up as they really are, the emptiness, the entitlement, the lack of empathy, you would sense it. You would feel something was off. So they perform. They over-deliver. They please. Because your approval is not optional to them. It is essential. For a while, the performance works. As long as you are admiring them, validating them, reflecting back the image they want to see, they feel stable. They feel powerful. They feel real. But maintaining a fabricated identity around the clock is exhausting. And eventually, cracks begin to form. The mask gets heavy. The effort becomes harder to sustain. The turning point often comes when you stop being a perfect audience and start being a real human being. Maybe you have a bad day. Maybe you express a need. Maybe you ask for consistency, respect, or honesty. Maybe you set a boundary. Or maybe, without even realizing it, you simply stop centering your entire emotional world around them. Any of these moments can trigger what is known as a narcissistic injury. To a narcissistic injury is not a minor inconvenience. It feels like a direct attack on their identity. Your request for basic human decency feels, to them, like rejection. And it's important to be very clear here. It's not just your boundaries that injure them. Your growth injures them. Your success injures them. Your independence injures them. If you receive recognition at work, if you form new friendships, if you discover passions or sources of joy that don't involve them, something shifts inside the narcissist. To a healthy partner, these are moments of celebration. To a narcissist, they are threats. Because the spotlight has moved. You are no longer just a mirror reflecting their greatness back to them. You are becoming your own person. And that is terrifying to them. A narcissist needs to be the center of your emotional universe. They need to be the primary source of your validation, your happiness, and even your pain. When you develop a sense of self that exists independently of them, it destabilizes their entire internal structure. It tells them they are not essential. And in their world, not being essential feels like annihilation. This is often when devaluation begins. The subtle criticisms, the emotional withdrawal, the passive-aggressive comments, the sudden coldness. All of it serves one purpose: to make you feel small again, to make you doubt yourself, to pull you back into a position where you seek their approval instead of standing in your own worth. At the same time, this devaluation acts as a defense mechanism. On some level, narcissists know their initial persona was a performance. They know they are not as kind, stable, or decent as they pretended to be. Rather than face that reality, they flip the script. You become the problem. You become too sensitive, too demanding, too difficult. This allows them to avoid confronting the truth that they are the ones who are failing. As the devaluation intensifies, something else begins to happen. You start to see through them. Maintaining a false self is incredibly difficult over time. Inconsistencies appear. The charm fades. The empathy disappears. The contradictions pile up. And eventually, they cross a line that cannot be undone. This is not a small mistake. This is not a misunderstanding. This is the betrayal, the humiliation, the financial abuse, the affair, the moment where your safety, dignity, or trust is fundamentally violated. And here's the key point. They know it. They may deny it, they may minimize it, they may blame you, but they know they crossed a line. They see it in your eyes. The admiration is gone. The spell is broken. The person who once looked at them with love now looks at them with clarity, and sometimes with quiet disgust. This moment represents the deepest narcissistic injury of all. They have been seen. Once this happens, they cannot simply revert to kindness. Genuine kindness would require vulnerability. It would require accountability. It would require empathy. And those are qualities they do not possess in a meaningful way. So instead, they choose chaos. Silence becomes a weapon. Conversations become confusing. Logic disappears. This is where word salad, deflection, and emotional incoherence take over. The silent treatment is not peace. It is punishment. It is designed to make you break first, to make you chase clarity, to make you beg for the resolution they are withholding. The confusing conversations are not accidental. They are meant to exhaust you, to wear you down until you doubt your own perception and give up trying to be understood. And yet, even as they do this, even as they provoke and destabilize you, they still desperately want you to like them. Not because they love you, but because your approval validates their existence. And this is where the story truly deepens. As the relationship reaches this stage, something critical shifts beneath the surface. The narcissist begins to understand, even if they would never admit it out loud, that the connection as it once existed is permanently damaged. They may still provoke you, withdraw from you, or appear to move on entirely, but internally, they are grappling with a loss that feels catastrophic. This is where their desperate need for you to like them again becomes more intense, not less. This need has nothing to do with love, attachment, or emotional connection in the way a healthy person understands those concepts. For a narcissist, identity is not something that comes from within. It is entirely external. They do not feel solid unless someone else is reflecting value back to them. They do not experience worth unless they can see it mirrored in another person's eyes. And you, as a genuine, emotionally consistent, and compassionate person, provided one of the highest quality mirrors they could ever find. When you were present and emotionally invested, you reflected a version of themselves that they desperately wanted to believe was real. Through you, they could see themselves as special, admirable, successful, and worthy. Losing that reflection is not experienced as losing a relationship. It is experienced as losing a piece of themselves. That is why your approval still matters to them long after the relationship is broken beyond repair. What makes this even more destabilizing for them is the collapse of their internal narrative. Narcissists live inside stories they tell themselves about who they are and how the world works. In that story, you were not just someone they were with. You were proof. Proof that they were desirable. Proof that they had exceptional judgment. Proof that they were capable of securing someone rare and valuable. They didn't just tell others this story. They told themselves this story repeatedly. When you stop liking them, when you see through them, that story shatters. It forces them to confront a reality they cannot tolerate, that they may have misjudged you, misrepresented themselves, and ultimately failed. This creates an unbearable level of cognitive dissonance. Rather than accept responsibility, they attempt to repair the story by reclaiming your approval, even if only symbolically. This is why they can't simply let go. Your continued disapproval represents a permanent flaw in their self-image. They want to be able to look back and think, "See, I was right. They still like me. I still mattered. I'm still in control." Your approval allows them to rewrite the ending in their mind, even if the relationship never resumes. This is also why they respond so poorly to indifference. Anger, resentment, and even hatred still connect you to them. They still confirm that you are emotionally affected. Indifference, however, is an emotional void. It communicates that they no longer register in your internal world, that they are no longer relevant. And for a narcissist, irrelevance is far more painful than rejection. This is where many of the more manipulative behaviors intensify. If kindness will no longer work, they turn to provocation. The silent treatment becomes more calculated. Communication becomes more erratic. Conversations feel surreal, circular, and draining. This is not confusion. It is strategy. By keeping you emotionally off balance, they maintain a sense of presence in your mind. At the same time, many narcissists introduce or flaunt a new supply. It's important to understand that the new supply is rarely about genuine connection or love. It serves multiple psychological purposes. On the surface, it is meant to provoke jealousy, self-doubt, and pain in you. They want you to question yourself. They want you to wonder if you were the problem all along. But on a deeper level, the new supply exists to revalidate the narcissist's internal script. When you saw through them, their performance failed. That failure creates panic. They begin to wonder, is my charm gone? Is my script broken? Can I no longer fool people? The new supply becomes a test run. They repeat the same lines, the same gestures, the same love-bombing tactics. When it works, they feel relieved. The script still functions. The problem wasn't them, it was you. Flaunting this new relationship in your direction is not coincidence. It is triangulation. A passive-aggressive message meant to say, "See, I'm still desirable. Your rejection didn't matter." But beneath that bravado is insecurity. The new supply is not a person to them. It is evidence. As time passes and you begin to heal, another shift occurs. The emotional intensity fades. The trauma bond, what some call a soul tie and clinicians call an addiction, begins to loosen. This bond was formed through extreme emotional highs and devastating lows, through intermittent reinforcement that chemically wired your nervous system to associate pain with connection. Breaking it is not easy. It feels like withdrawal, but it does happen. As you detach, something terrifying happens for the narcissist. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop defending yourself. And eventually, you stop caring. This is often when the Hoover appears. The timing is not random. It usually comes when their current supply is failing or when they become aware that you are doing well. They may see you thriving through social media. They may hear through mutual connections that you are happy, grounded, and indifferent. Your happiness without them is the final, undeniable narcissistic injury. It proves, in a way nothing else can, that they were not the source of your worth, that they were not essential, that the problem was not you. The Hoover is not about reconciliation. It is a test, a probe. Can I still affect you? Can I still disrupt your peace? Do I still matter? It might come in the form of a late-night apology, a casual message, a sudden emergency, or an expression of regret that feels vague and hollow. But by this point, something in you has changed. You no longer feel rage. You no longer feel longing. You may not even feel sadness. What you feel is distance, perspective, clarity. Their attempts no longer feel powerful. They feel desperate. And you respond accordingly, not with confrontation, but with silence or a quiet boundary. This is where true freedom begins. Wishing them well does not mean excusing their behavior or minimizing the harm they caused. It means releasing yourself from the emotional grip they once had over you. It is an act of radical acceptance. You accept that they are incapable of the depth, accountability, and empathy you once hoped for, and you choose to stop fighting reality. Narcissists cannot do this. They cannot release. They cannot reflect in a way that leads to growth. They remain trapped in cycles of manipulation, image management, and validation seeking. You, however, have the capacity to heal, to grow, and to find fulfillment that comes from within. The truth is, narcissists will always want to be liked. They crave universal approval because without it, their sense of self collapses. But you are not responsible for holding them together. Their failure to maintain your approval is not your fault. It is the natural consequence of their actions. And one day, when their name no longer triggers emotion, when their presence feels irrelevant, when their attempts feel no more significant than junk mail, you will know you are free. Thank you so much for being here and allowing yourself to engage with this conversation. If this message brought you clarity or validation, please take a moment to like this video. Your comments and shared experiences help create a space where others feel understood and less alone. Consider sharing this with someone who may need it, and don't forget to subscribe for more content focused on healing, emotional clarity, and reclaiming your sense of self. Your support allows this channel to continue reaching those who are still searching for answers. We'll be back with you again very soon.